this is where it got stressful and I was sweating. By the way, I watched this race in a restaurant because I was not missing this race. I was literally in the restaurant with my laptop, sweating, nearly shouting, but obviously had to remember my manners because I was out in public. Um,
My loser of the day for the second week in a row is going to them FIA stewards because you are dickheads. Yeah. It is going to the whole FIA, Michael Masi, all the stewards. You lot make this so hard to enjoy because we're left arguing about stupid things that should be left off of the track.
Hi everyone, welcome back to On the Chicane for the 22nd time this year. It's our last race of the season, and what a race. I think you can tell by my tone and Paris's face how unimpressed we are with everything that kind of unfolded today. Yeah, it's just been a very emotional weekend. It's been an emotional season. There's been so much that has happened this year. It's been a great competition. Max has really brought it to Lewis, and Lewis in return has fought back. But unfortunately today it didn't quite turn out as would hoped. So I guess for the last time in 2021, let's break down what happened in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix.
Yeah, let's get into it, as we always say. I'm gutted. I don't think I can even say it in any other way. Like, I'm just absolutely gutted. My heart is in the floor. So I'm not happy. This weekend, I think, you know, it was either teams to win or lose. We went into it on equal points. I think there was the feeling that whatever else has happened in the year, at least they're equal again. So let's wipe the slate clean and just like have the race between the two kind of competitors. And I think even the fans were kind of like on that mindset where it's just like, all right, let's see what happens in Abu Dhabi. And yeah, so qualifying, was pretty decent for Max. Him and Checo have been an absolute pair this weekend. I think they have epitomized team spirit, really, towing each other both in quali and really utilizing that kind of the fact that they have two cars. So I think Red Bull really had some fighting mentality this weekend, and it meant that Max was on pole for today's race. So I think he started off going into it a little bit ahead, perhaps in that sense. But yeah, what did you think? Did you watch quali yesterday? Like, how did you feel about that?
I did watch quali yesterday. I tweeted quali yesterday, if you remember.
You did.
um, quali, yeah, I mean, there was obviously the kind of like, oh my God moment in Q2 where Verstappen set his lap time on the soft tyres, and it was kind of like, okay, well, this is the tyre that he's starting the race on, which was, I think, not expected for Red Bull. But they kind of had to go with it because, and Hamilton was on the medium. That was kind of the only talking point, I suppose, from qualifying. They were both putting in really good sectors, but Mercedes just seemed to have the better pace in quali. Just generally, until that final moment when Max took pole. And I think the statistic is that, like, in the past like 6 races or something, the pole sitter has gone on to win the race. But that being said, that is on the old track layout. So obviously for this race, we had a different layout in terms of turn 9, the new turn 9, which is slightly banked, the loss of another chicane, some wider corners. So basically they'd alter the track a little bit. So it was kind of new. The intention was to allow for overtaking. So it was kind of it, like Paris said, it was kind of anyone's race. Yeah, he's the most successful driver at Abu Dhabi. He's had 5 race wins since we've been racing there. And you know, he drove an incredible race today. So yeah, I think I don't know.
What did you think like before the race started? Were you kind of leaning towards Max, or were you leaning towards Lewis? Who did you think was going to win?
Okay. I absolutely hate to admit this because I feel like a traitor, but in like deep down, I thought Max would get it just because of how he's been driving this year and how everything's kind of worked in his favor. There was just a part of me that was kind of like, I didn't say it loud to anyone. I was like, I don't want to jinx this. I want Lewis to get this. So I didn't voice my thoughts at all. But I had a feeling it would be Max. And I was so hoping I'd be wrong. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know why. I just feel like there's a lot going on with the pressure that he faces, not just within the sport, but externally as well. And then the pressure that is put onto him within the sport as well, in terms of like, you know, fighting for equality, all these things that Max doesn't have to deal with. And I feel like Lewis's mindset he's very strong mentally, but for him to be dealing with all the extra pressures as well, like I don't know if it's got to him this year, but I feel like he's just not been I feel like he's been at 99%, not 100. That's just my kind of observation, I suppose. But yeah, what did you think? Who did you think would get
it? I definitely thought Lewis was going to get it. I didn't want to say it. Similar reasons. I didn't want to jinx it, so I didn't say it. And I think there was a moment at the beginning of the race where like Max overtook him, and I was thinking, oh, maybe, you know, it's not going to happen. There was a brief split second, but I was like, no, it doesn't matter, because even when Max qualified on the softs, and I knew that he was going to obviously, well, I didn't know actually, because I was wrong, but I assumed that he would get the better start and have more grip in the first few laps. And I really thought that it was going to come down to like the strategy between Red Bull and Mercedes on pits and stuff like that. That was my mentality. I just thought that was going to more decide the race than actual on track fighting and wheel to wheel racing.
Yeah.
So I genuinely did think that Lewis had a massive chance, not even a massive chance, like I thought he had it in the bag. I'm not even gonna lie. I thought he was gonna take away his 8th, and I really just didn't want to see him not take away his 8th. So I didn't say anything. I didn't want to jinx it. But yeah, I think we'll get into the whole story of it, the whole saga of it. There was that feeling in me where if he wasn't going to get it, it would be in this kind of a way. And so I think, yeah, in my heart, I think I was kind of right with my predictions. I think Lewis could have got it, and he came very, very close. And had the last lap not happened, I think he would have got it, and it would have been completely fine. But yeah, the last lap did happen. So today's race, at the beginning, as we said, Lewis got the better start, surprisingly, because Max was on a better tire. So he should have had more grip, but I think Lewis just was a bit punchier on the throttle. That's probably the only reason. But Max came back fighting a little bit later in the lap, and managed to kind of get around Lewis, but also or get on the inside of Lewis, but did his thing where he pushes him wide. So how did you feel about that?
Like, I was obviously so happy to see Hamilton get the better start, because as you said, I think we were kind of just thinking, oh, Max is on the softs, like it looks like Hamilton's gonna have to fight. And then going into the first few corners, Hamilton was just on it, and then Max kind of tried to come back, and then there was that incident where Red Bull were Hamilton needs to give that place back because he just pushed Max wide, but Max didn't actually go off the track. And they were kind of level going into that corner. So as far as obviously the
steward's decision.
As far as they were concerned, they were like, there's nothing for Hamilton to give back, like it's just it's fine. So Red Bull obviously weren't happy about that. And then generally throughout the race, like the two of them were so just on it. At one point they were like 20 seconds ahead of the entire grid, which was it's just insane to imagine that, considering like how close they race. 20 seconds is a lot. So and Hamilton was really giving it his all. And what I love is that Mercedes kind of had figured out their strategy, I feel like, because we all know that Mercedes and their strategy isn't always the best, right? But they pitted Max at Red Bull, and immediately Mercedes reacted and pulled in Lewis, which I think was obviously the right thing, because in the past they've waited it out and it's not really worked in their favor, but they seemed to be a bit more on it today.
I think they probably had like meetings beforehand covering all the different eventualities of what could happen. It worried me a little bit because they pulled him in, I think 1, maybe 2 laps. I think Max had done like 1 and a bit laps when they pulled Lewis in. And it worried me because then I was thinking, crap, they're kind of now on the same tire strategy, which for me worried me, because I was hoping that Lewis would have done a longer stint and Max would have had to have done a double kind of pit stops. But like you said, to give Mercedes strat team their credit, they did react very quickly to Max at first. However, I disagree slightly in that they got their whole strategy correct. I do think that they should have pulled Lewis in on the virtual safety car much later, which I think was on lap 36. So I think they should have pulled him in and put him on a medium tire for that bit of the race. Personally, that's the only thing I think would have possibly then made a difference with all the crazy stuff that happened later in the race.
No, I do agree. I think for the first half of the race, Mercedes were on it with their strategy, and then the second part, especially as you say, when it was a virtual safety car, wasn't it? Yeah, with the VSC, they should have pulled Lewis in, and it surprised me that they didn't. And then obviously you had Bono saying, "Oh, we would have lost track position if we had pulled you in."
Yeah.
So I can understand why they didn't, but I mean, at that point, you've kind of like, it's like you've got everything to lose.
Yeah.
So how do you make that call at that point when Hamilton is in the lead and he's like got the advantage? How do you say, okay, we could potentially lose just some position, and then, but I don't know because you don't know what's
I think the key thing was though that they definitely had it on their cards. Like he even asked, he was like, why didn't you not pit me? And they said, well, you would have lost track position. But they had it on their cards because they'd asked them a few laps earlier, what tires would you prefer? So it was something that they were aware that it could potentially happen for the rest of the race. And the virtual safety car was caused by Giovinazzi going into the wall, and then later on in the race you had Mick Schumacher and Latifi battling, and Latifi ended up on the dirty side of the track, messed up his tires, and then ended up going out and pulling off later. So there was definitely the potential for safety cars. I think they knew that, and I think they should have covered themselves by just putting Lewis on a grippier tire, because if there are safety cars, what happens is even if you're on the virtual safety car, the slowing down loses the heat and the grip from the hard tires, especially. So I think they either way, regardless of what was happening, they should have covered it, because a couple of track positions Lewis could have made up and he wouldn't have ended up behind Verstappen anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so that was that. And then, like you said, pretty standard racing. Hamilton looked good to go. And then we had the safety car. Which lap was that?
The actual safety car was, well, it was 58 laps, and they were under the safety car for about 5 laps, and then they raced for 1.
So around about lap 52, 53.
Yeah.
So anyway, as Paris just said, 58 laps in this race. With less than 10 laps to go, we've got a safety car because Latifi goes into the side. There's debris on the track. They need to safely remove his car. They pull out the safety car. This is where it got stressful and I was sweating. By the way, I watched this race in a restaurant because I was not missing this race, but it was my best friend's birthday lunch. So I was literally in the restaurant with my laptop, sweating, nearly shouting, but obviously had to remember my manners because I was out in public. Yeah, Latifi goes off and you're literally just like, oh my God, there's a safety car. This is where cars now, because they have to slow down, they kind of come closer together. And all I could think was, Max is going to be right on Lewis. That was the only thought that was going through my head.
Literally, with softer tires, grippier tires, I was stressed.
It was so obvious. It was like a setup to an extent, because it was like, all right, you're under safety car conditions, you cannot overtake. Then you've got all these cars that need to be lapped, and Horner's on the radio to the FIA and to Michael saying, okay, well, what are you going to do about these cars that need to be, lapped? And Michael's like, let me figure this out. I just need to sort this out. And he doesn't really say anything to Christian. And then all of a sudden you hear that there's a race controller saying, okay, all the cars that need to be lapped go around the safety car and overtake the safety car. To which I was like, what? And then suddenly they've brought the safety car in and it's green flag and it's back to racing with 1 lap to go. Obviously, Max is right behind Lewis. Bearing in mind, after a safety car, you cannot have DRS open for 2 laps. So it was just a mess and it made no sense. And like I say, it was almost like a setup, because Hamilton essentially should have had the lead, would have won this race had the whole safety car thing not happened. But where you've got Max, who's literally on Hamilton's rear, he's able to go ahead, he's got slipstream from the cars that have overtaken or whatever. So he's able to go ahead, overtake Hamilton into turn 1. Hamilton's fighting to get his position back, but Verstappen's also got the tyre advantage because he's just done a pit stop recently. So then Hamilton's literally having to struggle to keep up. And then it's like a bit of a battle between them. And then Verstappen just gets away. And that's how the race is won. And it made no sense, because they went racing for 1 lap after a safety car under the most ridiculous conditions. It was just like, what are you doing?
We actually have the video of my reaction. So I watched, Marium, like she said, was in a restaurant with her mates today, and so we couldn't watch together. Ideally, we would have loved to have watched the last race together. But in the end, I ended up watching with Quick Stop. Shout out Tandy, shout out Nyasha. And yeah, I'm going to pop the clip right here and you can watch our reaction video.
Hamilton will want to be disappearing off the distance as fast as he can. It's the only way to be winning with that. But
safety car should be. Oh, I thought you would have come.
Is there any more debris to clear up? Halfway around the race control, they'll say it. Lap cars.
What? What? Christian Horner. That's Christian Horner and his nonsense.
And it's ended.
Go! What?
There's confusion.
What?
It's coming in.
This is what I mean. They just do stuff because they want to do stuff for the different drivers. What?
Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen.
What the fuck? Oh, what the fuck? What is going on?
Side by side.
But look, he's got better tires.
Absolutely desperate to get over this on that subcompound.
He's basically ahead of him.
What the fuck is this?
Go on, Lewis.
I'm
gonna be sick. I'm gonna be sick. I'm gonna be sick.
That's the advantage.
Go on, Lewis. Oh my gosh. My heart is dying.
All the way to the check.
Oh my god. Oh my God! I'm gonna be sick.
You actually could not make the shot.
Oh!
No!
Goodness! Goodness! Good! Good! Come on! Goodness! 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 Come on! Oh my God!
This is too much for my heart.
It comes down to this, and at this moment, it looks like it's going to go the way of Max Verstappen. Mercedes not happy. Red Bull will be delighted. They have shared a brilliant championship battle, but the championship can only be won one, and it's going to touch in 2021. Max Verstappen, for the first time ever, is champion of the world.
They fucking handed that to him. They handed that to him.
So, as you will probably see, like my reaction, I was desolate when they brought out the safety car, and when they decided to then go racing afterwards. I think that was a bit mad. Like, I think trying to race for one lap, disregarding the entire set of rules, that was wild. I think what really annoyed me as well was that Michael Masi's decision was so wishy-washy. Because if you remember, for the first half of the safety lap, it was like, no, we're going to leave the lapped cars in between. We're not unlapping the cars. Then it was like, no, actually, we are unlapping the cars. Decision made. But only 5 of the lapped cars. There were 8 lapped cars, and only 5 of them were actually allowed to follow the procedure. That made no sense. And it was only the cars in between Lewis and Max. So it was kind of unfortunate because the people in the cars in the back of the pack were not allowed to unlap themselves, which is against rules. Like, it's not even the thing. I think a lot of Max fans might watch this and be like, oh, what are you crying about? You know, like, Lewis has had things that go his way, blah, blah, blah. You know, this time it just went Max's way, whatever your reasoning is. But it's not the rules. It's like, I don't know, if you're playing football or something like that and you're allowed to shoot a penalty offside, like, or you're allowed to shoot a goal offside, it's not the rules. You're not allowed to do that. So what's the point? Like, they're just like, oh yeah, it's okay, you shoot this goal in and you'll win, but you're offside. What sense is that?
That's the thing. It's the inconsistency, isn't it? And the fact that there is no real grounding for any of these rules. It's literally being made up race by race, moment by moment. Like it
how is anybody supposed to follow the sport?
We haven't had I don't recall ever watching a season like this where the rules are literally made up as you go along. And I genuinely would not be surprised if there were calls for Michael Masi to be replaced next year, because genuinely it makes no sense. And again, I don't want to sit here and make it sound like we're being really sour and whatever, because obviously to an extent we are, but the fact of the matter is, it's not even the fact that Lewis lost, it's the fact that there's so much inconsistency with the rules and whatever the FIA is saying, that it's like, did Verstappen really win that race based on his talent and his skill, or was it just because the FIA decided this is the rules for now? It makes no sense, and there's no clear logic behind this win.
If you consider the racing in the race, right, you had Max v Lewis. Max once again pushed Lewis off the track in order to maintain a position. Okay, this time he himself did not go off of the track and outside of the white lines, but once again he proved that he cannot race a person on track. Lewis went toe-to-toe with Perez for like friggin' 7-8 corners, and Perez and Lewis managed to both keep it on the track the whole time. So if we're looking at actual racecraft and driving during that race, who deserved to actually, be in front?
Exactly, and that's
So
the thing. You see, if you watch this race back, you can see how well Lewis is managing that car.
yeah,
Like it's the audacity for me. It's the audacity because seriously,
it really is. It really is.
he should have.
And I think even there was a point actually during the first virtual safety car, just to show how unbiased this conversation is. There was a point during the first virtual safety car where Toto was on the blower to Michael Masi, and he was like, "No, we don't want no safety cars. We don't want no safety cars." And I was like, "What is he doing here? Like, get off!" Because they, in my opinion, and let me know if you agree with me, but team principals should not be allowed to be on the phone to the race director lobbying for positions, lobbying for calls and stuff during the race. Like, what is that? He should be an impartial person who adjudicates the race based on the facts and the rules and regulations. And that's not what happened today at all. Like, you had Toto on one side for the first bit of the race. Then you had Horner again, like saying, I think he was on the phone a couple of times throughout the whole race, to the point where, again, like last week, where we were saying that they were, having that back and forth, the negotiation about the penalty. Stop negotiating. There are rules for a reason. And I think what kind of sealed it for me as well was that, so in case you didn't know, Mercedes took the decisions of Michael Masi and the stewards to be adjudicated at the end, and they protested it, and basically they protested two things. One, like Mariam was saying, during the actual safety car, Max came pretty close up behind Lewis, and he was almost alongside him. At one point, it looked like he was overtaking him. And the second thing they protested was just the kind of race restart to do with the cars not unlapping themselves in the correct procedural manner. So in order for Max to become the true World Drivers' Champion, this had to go through the stewarding once again, and they had to decide whether or not this was something that could be appealed, which could influence the race decision. So the first one, which was the one where Max was going like ahead of Lewis, that was dismissed, and it was decided that his action did not influence the outcome of the race, so it didn't matter. Bit kind of weird, because once again they kind of said that he was doing it a little bit, but whatever, that was dismissed because it didn't affect the outcome of the race. Now with the second appeal, with the one about the unlapping of the cars and the procedure behind the safety car is supposed to make a whole lap, and everybody's supposed to end up behind the race leader. They decided that they did not follow the correct procedures. However, there's another clause which allows Michael Masi, the race director, to basically have influence over the safety car when it's withdrawn and when it's allowed out. So essentially what they're saying is, yeah, the rules are here, but it's up to the discretion of the race director to flout them whenever he wants. And I think that's wrong. You can't have that. You can't have one person who has absolute power in the sense that they can even dismiss all of the rules.
Yep, I agree. You've literally just articulated it all so well. I just think that's the biggest problem here today. It's not, generally, kudos to Max. He's driven really, dirty, bit unfair at times.
Yeah.
But he's driven hard. Like he's really challenged Lewis. So, kudos to him for winning his first world championship. But it's just the way that he's won it. I don't know if it's deserving. And it's a shame, to be honest. And the fact that those appeals from Mercedes have been rejected and there is no change to the world championship, like I wasn't expecting a change, to be honest.
Neither was I.
Yeah, so yeah,
but they're never going to say, oh yeah, no, we made a mistake, let's take that back. They wouldn't do that. So Max has the world championship now. Congratulations to Max. Congratulations to Max fans. I'm sure you've truly enjoyed it. That guy who got the tattoo of the number 33, you're lucky. Honestly, one lap lucky. But yeah, I think there definitely has to be major changes with stewarding in general next year, and just the contact that the team principals have with the race director. I think there should be a ban on conversation during the race. I don't think they should be allowed to do that, to influence his decisions.
I mean,
especially not Marium and Masi. He's a wet fish. He just listens to whatever anybody says.
It's true. I do love the FIA radio, to be fair, but I agree it shouldn't be team principals, and I do think Michael Masi, I'm sorry, but he needs replacing. Bring me in. I'll be a great race director.
Go for it. Love to see you in there.
Cool. But yeah, I don't know. I think next year is going to be interesting. I know that there's going to be a whole load of changes, and we'll probably do a video before the next season starts to explain 2022 and going forward, the new era of F1 cars. But for now, for the end of this era, it's been weird. It's been fun, intense. I'm just sad that this is how it's ended. It wasn't, in my eyes, it wasn't fair racing that ended this race today and ended this championship. It was a bending of the rules and just a lack of clarity, really. So yeah,
I totally agree. I'm really sad to say there were other teams on the grid. We did not pay very much attention to them. I don't know about you. Sainz finished third. That was interesting, because I completely missed his overtake, if he did one, of Lando Norris, whoever was in front of him.
To be fair, as Paris said, I didn't pay attention to anything else. My eyes were glued to Hamilton and Max. But yeah, Carlos, incredible driver this year. He's been on the podium several times. He's been so good. So for him to come home and get third, I'm happy, because it's Ferrari kind of back up there. So, you know, hopefully this means that Ferrari are kind of hopefully ready to bring it again, because I miss Ferrari being on the podium consistently.
I agree. Him being as well like fifth in the Drivers' Championship. So he finished ahead of Leclerc, who finished seventh. And I think, considering the fact that Leclerc is an amazing driver and we know how tenacious he can be with his driving, for Sainz to come in to Ferrari in his first year and manage that is a feat. That's amazing.
Yeah, I am very impressed with Chili boy. But yeah, Tsunoda as well, finishing fourth. That was his best ever career finish.
Well done. So proud of him.
Finished just ahead of Gasly. So, you know, Bottas, not really interested. I feel like he was just kind of like, yeah, whatever. This is my last race.
Yeah, that was a bit wild. Hamilton maybe could have also used some of the tactics that Red Bull were employing had Bottas been up there. But honestly, that kind of makes me want to see George Russell next year.
Yeah, George seems like a bit more of a team player, to be honest. Yeah. So yeah, that was that. Perez did a really good job today, to be fair, in terms of like fending and fighting for the team.
All weekend, to be honest, as well, and Collie.
There was that cute moment where Max did jump on the radio and say Perez is a legend or something, or Checo's a legend, which I thought was really cute.
It was a shame because he DNF'd in the end due to an issue with his radiator, I want to say, or something. Yeah, he had some sort of issue.
When that happened, it was evident that Mercedes had now won the constructors. So congratulations to Mercedes for like the 8th year in a row they're constructor champions. That's something, I suppose. There were like several DNFs. Sadly, Kimi Raikkonen did not get to finish his final F1 race because he was the first driver to retire. I think he went into the barrier and he had a wing issue. Was that Raikkonen?
Yeah.
And then they just ended up retiring him.
He joined, I think Felipe Massa had a similar last race incident on one of the times when he retired.
Yeah, so this is Kimi's second time retiring, but I don't think he'll be back. Giovinazzi, his teammate, also did not finish the race. A sad way for him to be leaving Formula One because he's going to FE next year. So that was pretty shitty race for the Alphas. They didn't get to finish with either of their cars, but it is what it is. Latifi also DNF'd because he obviously had his accident. Do you know what? I blame Latifi for all of this. It's his fault.
Some say that perhaps it was Mick Schumacher protecting his dad's legacy. Anyway,
yeah, that is the rumor.
I joke, I kid, kind of.
No, that is.
He went into the barriers last week too, which caused a safety car issue. So just saying. But yeah, Latifi was out. Russell also retired a little bit earlier in the race. He was livid, actually. He was live tweeting. He was with Team LH live tweeting on Twitter. He was like, "This is ridiculous." So yeah, shout out George. George is Merc fan now from this point on. Yeah. And then Ocon and Alonso, how did they do?
I don't know.
Don't know
either. Do I really care? I mean, I care for Ocon. I don't really care for Alonso. Sorry, but not sorry. Oh yeah, 8th and 9th. Not bad. Leclerc rounded off the top 10 and 10th. And then we had Seb 11th, Ricciardo 12th, Stroll 13th, and Schumacher was the last one in 14th.
Mm-hmm.
And that was
Mazepin did not race today because he had COVID. So.
Oh yes. So only 19 people started on the grid.
Yeah.
But yeah, that, guys, was the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And we're finally done for 2020.
Can you believe it? Like, we've done 23 videos, 23 races did we have this year? 22. Fuck me. I mean, damn.
No, I agree. It's been long.
Oh, it's been amazing though. Like, imagine this being our first year that we've come together and done this. Like, me and Mariam, I mean, you can go back and watch our introductory video if you want, but like, we didn't know each other before this year, and it's been really great to kind of work with another woman to bring this to you guys, because we didn't know that we were going to be doing this last year. There was no plan. This came together like 2-3 weeks before the first race,
literally. But it has been amazing, and like I think I said this last week as well, but thank you so much for joining us and for engaging with us and for actually following our content as well. Like, sometimes we do ramble and it can get a bit repetitive, and especially when there's so many content creators out there, for you guys to be choosing to listen to us means a lot. So yeah, thank you for sticking with us. Hopefully we'll be a little bit more prepared for next year. There's a lot going on in my life personally next year. And also, now that I work in F1, I will be working more race weekends. So I will not be as available. However, we will be like trying to bring you our content, and hopefully more content actually.
Yeah, we have more plans, I think. And with the Christmas break and the start of the new season, I think it will give us time to prepare a bit better and actually execute things the way we want to, so that we can engage with you guys more, and we want to hear more opinions. We want to speak to you guys on individual levels and not just be talking at you, but actually talking to you. So like Mariam said, thanks.
Yeah, but with that, there are 23 races next year. It's going to be an intense season, even more so than this year. Yeah, like I can't even remember the amount of triple headers that there are, but it's going to be a lot. So I suppose just bear with us, stick with us as well. We'll probably be a little bit quieter, especially as we end this year, just to give us a bit of a chance to recoup, because it's been very full on. And hopefully we'll be back with a lot more next year.
Definitely. But before we go,
fine.
Last thing before we go, who are your final winners and losers of the race of the year?
Okay, so my winner of the race today, I'm going to have to say Hamilton. He gave it his all and he did so well. Like, that race was his. If it weren't for that safety car, cough, cough, Latifi, Hamilton would have won that race. So I think Hamilton for sure. My loser of the day, Latifi, for DNFing and for causing that safety car. Yeah, I'm annoyed at you. Yeah, what about you?
I'm gonna give my final winner of the day to Perez. I think Hamilton 100% deserves every single accolade, and the only reason I don't really give it to him is because it was unfortunate that he did not win. So for me, he's not my winner of the day. Max did win, but I don't like the way he won, so he's not my winner of the day. So I'm going to give it to the next best person, which I think is Perez, and I think it's because throughout the year, I think a lot of people have expected a lot from him and expected a little bit from him, but he is consistently, at least for the last few races, been a team player for Red Bull. I said from the beginning of the year that I would be super happy for him in Red Bull, even though I hate Red Bull as a team, just because I think he deserves that kind of, he deserves a good drive. And I think today you saw why. You know, he was a massive team player and he drives amazingly. Like, you saw the wheel to wheel action with Lewis, and I think he's had a crazy weekend, a great weekend.
Yeah.
My loser of the day for the second week in a row is going to them FIA stewards, because you are dickheads. Yeah. It is going to the whole FIA, Michael Masi, all the stewards. You lot make this so hard to enjoy because we're left arguing about stupid things that should be left off of the track. So you guys get my loser of the day today.
I like that one. That was a good one. My winner of the year, I'm gonna say Gasly and Sainz. I think Gasly has been so good with the consistent top 10 finishes in quali, and you know, trying to bring home the points, and Carlos as well, debut season in Ferrari. He's come in, he's smashed it. He's definitely got potential there, and if Ferrari can bring a better car next year, I think Carlos will be up there fighting for more podiums.
I can't wait for our video about next year, because I think there's going to be so much to discuss and so much hype. I really can't wait.
So that's my winners. My loser of the year, such a good question. My loser of the year, I'm going to give it to Ricardo.
Ooh, that's such a good one.
Yeah, I think everyone had high hopes for Daniel coming into McLaren, you know, being as great as he was a few seasons ago with Red Bull. Back then I was like, this guy is world champion material. Since his move to Renault, something's happened and he's kind of just lost his touch. You know, do you remember the days when he used to be like the king of overtaking, and they used to call him, like, I can't remember, but he used to be like incredible at overtaking. And I feel like now he's lost that. He's not really come to McLaren and shown anything special. So Ricardo, I'm sorry, I love you, but you've not really lived up to expectations this year. So you are my loser of 2021.
That is a very good one. Very, very good one.
Yeah.
My winner of the year is going to be Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
I think he has, race after race, been put in situations by Mercedes where he's had to fight from the back of the pack. He's been penalized a many times by the FIA, and each time like he's just kind of taken it in his stride and dealt with it. I think he's shown that he's a class above the rest with the way that he champions both on and off the track. Like, he mentors the younger drivers, he always speaks up for them even if they themselves don't speak up. Like, he's such a good role model on the track, and he doesn't have to be, you know, he could just be there driving for himself. So I think he's shown this year why a lot of people really value him as a driver. And I think that a lot of people who maybe didn't respect him before have come to respect him, and a lot of people who already respected him, already loved him, their love has grown for him this year. And you know, everything, like I said, that he's done off the track with his STEM research and everything to do with equality, I think is amazing. So for me, he is easily the driver of the year. And then my loser of the year, really difficult, because like I totally agree with you with Ricardo, but obviously we always like to try and do different people. So for that, I will probably then say maybe Alonso, which doesn't necessarily make sense when it comes to his driving. Like, he is a good driver and we know this. He is, and I guess I should probably be discussing this from a racing driver perspective, but I think he's just not in Formula One for the right reasons. The more interviews he does, you can see that he's in there with a weird, really odd and weird, messed up vendetta, just to try and cause havoc and play, like the whole stuff that he did with the stewards and testing the boundaries of what's right and wrong with racing, and all the stuff he says about Hamilton. And I think there's so many more deserving people in the world to be in Formula One, and he's just not one of them anymore. Sorry, sue me.
Hot take, but I agree. Yeah, I think that makes sense. So yeah, I suppose, guys, that is it from us for the last time this year. Again, thank you so much for watching. Stay up to date with us on our social channels, on Twitter and on Instagram. We won't be on YouTube, I don't think, for a few weeks now, but we will be on Twitter, we will be on Instagram, so follow us at On The Chicane, and yeah, have a good Christmas, and we will catch you probably in the new year. Thanks.
Definitely in the new year. We will be catching you in the new year. So yeah, like Mariam said, thanks and goodbye.